All right. So before we get started, before I take you through the Narayana ConCalls as an example, okay, so let me tell you, in the essence of time, okay, in this video, okay, I would I would take you through any on-call commentary on the industry. Okay? Essentially, within the industry, I would take you through what they're talking about demand. Okay, what are the factors which would drive demand in this industry? What is the management saying about it? तो वो मैं आपको दिखाऊंगा. Okay, all right. Okay. See, business model and business metrics, right? Essentially, you can get a sense from the investor presentation itself. Okay, all right. And of course, investor presentation would provide some information as said, and of course, you have to supplement it with information that you find on business model metrics from the con calls and other sources as well. Okay, all right. So, any which ways, अभी जो con call हम देखेंगे, you'll understand. So, I'll take you through uh, a demand driver का example. Okay, of course, not all the demand drivers, but one of the examples. Okay, and then I'll also, as I said, I'll take you to the framework to assess moat in this business or in any business for that matter. Of course, I'll be talking specifically about Narayana Hrudalaya. Okay. But essentially, you can use that framework and try to apply it to other companies as well. Okay. All right. And then, of course, I'll also, as I said, okay, I'll be taking you through some of the growth sound bites or the growth commentary that this company, Narayana Hrudalaya, makes on growth. Okay. And then how you distill all that information and put it in a framework for analysis. That essentially also I'm going to talk about. Okay. All right. And then I'll also show you commentary on cost and working capital as well. Okay, so hopefully, you get a sense by the end of this video, key how do you approach the analysis of a con call? That is what my objective is. Okay. All right. So see, starting with the industry. All right. So I flipped open the an earning call transcript from for this company from FY24 Q3. ये Q3 का कौन कॉल है that I pulled up. Okay, all right. मैंने पहले ही नोट्स ले लिए हैं. So I'll jump straight away to what I want to show you. आपको भी इसी तरीके से you have to make notes using the framework on the slide that I had put up. Okay, कि what is essentially you need to look for. अभी हम we are looking for industry sound bites. We are looking for commentary on industry. So I'm straight away going to jump to any commentary on the industry. Okay, तो मैं वहां पे jump करता हूं. All right. Okay, so all right. So यहाँ पे all right. See, Viren Shetty, who is the MD of this company. Okay? So what he talks about is, okay, there is a shift in the preference of patients. He's giving you an industry soundbite. He's commenting on the industry. Okay, all right. He's saying there is a shift in the preference of patients to move from very large unorganized sector, which constitutes 90% of the private bed capacity, okay, and they moving away from unorganized to more accredited larger hospital chains. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. He's commenting on the industry. So he's saying there is a shift. As people, so what he goes on to say is that of course, as people have more money, India has an aspiring middle class. As people have more money, okay, they would want their near one and loved ones to be treated in good hospitals with state of the art infrastructure, which have a good brand name, right? Okay, all right. So ये बोल रहे हैं कि there is a shift from unorganized market to organized market. And right now, 90% of the private bed capacity in the country continues to be unorganized. And of course, Narayana is an organized hospital. It's a large organized hospital. Okay, so this is one of the drivers which would drive demand for these guys, and not only Narayana, for other large private hospitals in India as well. So this is what he's saying, that this is of course one of the very powerful demand drivers which is playing out in the industry. So this is a key industry soundbite. Okay, which is I thought I'll cover. And of course, there are other demand drivers which he talks about in other con calls as well. I'm just taking you through one of them. Okay, कि आपको पता लगना चाहिए कि आप क्या ढूंढ रहे हो. All right, क्या ढूंढ रहे हो और उसे डॉक्यूमेंट करो एक जगह. Okay, now, all right, now अभी हमने we went through one industry वाला example. Now let me talk about moat. Okay, moat is a very abused word everywhere in the industry. It's an abused word. Okay, all right. So moat essentially stands for competitive advantage. Okay, so let me just pull up a quote from Buffett before we try to assess moat. Okay, before I give you a framework for moat which you can use to, let's say, in trying to assess moat for any business. All right. So this is what Buffett has famously said. He says no formula in finance tells you that moat is 28 feet wide and 16 feet deep. That's what drives the academics crazy. Okay? They can compute standard deviations in beta, but they can't understand modes. Okay, right? There is no one formula which you can use to describe mode. The closest formula, financial metric that comes to deciding mode, in my view, and as per Buffett also, is ROIC, return on capital, or return on equity if it's a financial business. Okay, all right. If a company is able to sustain high ROIC for prolonged periods of time, then of course the business is said to have competitive advantage or moats. That's the closest financial metric when it comes to describing mode. Otherwise, it's more of a subjective and qualitative exercise. Okay, all right. Now, all right. See, before we get into the ConCall analysis, it's important that we understand that what are some of the sources of moat in a business. Okay, because essentially we look for those sources of moat when we do the call analysis, when we do that earning call transcript analysis. So we look for those sources of moat. Okay, all right. So essentially, I know it's quite a list here, okay, but let me take you through all the sources of moat that I've listed here in this table. Okay, all right. So if you look at the first one, okay, cost advantage. Okay, if you have cost advantage, if you as a business has cost advantage in industry, let's say if you're the lowest cost operator, then that gives you significant moat. Okay, all right. Like Avenue Supermarts in India in retail, and then Costco in the US, okay, they have a lot of they're a very low cost operator. Okay? So it gives them significant moat, significant competitive advantage vis-a-vis others. Okay? Because these retailers are able to source products at a very low price from their suppliers. Okay, all right. So, and how do you measure whether a business has cost advantage or not? Of course, you look at their operating margin. This is what essentially I have. Okay. So even for Narayana, okay, we are going to look at its operating margin and then compare its operating margin with the peers in the industry, with other hospitals, all right, in India. That is essentially what we're going to do. Okay. And of course, not only that, when we look at the ConCall, when we read through the ConCalls, okay, it's important that we mark out the items in which the management is talking about operating margin or the cost. All right, because essentially that will help us forming a view if that business has any cost advantage in any sense. All right, so this is one of the things that we first have to dig through when we read through the ConCalls. Okay, and not just one call. Of course, we have to go back at least 3-4 years back in time and read through all the ConCalls. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. And then, so that's one. Okay? And then, of course, along with ConCall, you have operating leverage. Okay? So, of course, you have to this in if a business has a lot of high fixed cost, okay, then of course that business will have operating leverage. Okay? And how do you judge whether business has operating leverage? You look at if the SG&A, okay, which is a measure of which is a good proxy, I would say, to uh, uh, measure fixed costs in a business. So, if you see the SG&A is going down over time, all right, if the SG&A is going down over time, okay, and also the occupancy. Okay. Occupancy is a operating metric. If the occupancy is increasing and the SG&A is going down over time, then that gives you a good indication that the business has operating leverage. Okay. All right. And then uh, another important thing is how capital efficient a business is in that industry, how good of a capital allocator a business is. All right. Because if a business is very capital intensive, like hospitals, then of course you need to understand, okay, what is their capital efficiency vis-a-vis other players in the industry. Okay. That is something you need to understand. All right. Yeah. And then pricing power and brand power, they kind of go together. Okay? So if you have a good brand name, okay, in the industry, okay, then of course you can charge higher prices for your product and services. All right. Yeah. So, and how do you measure pricing power? At least for hospitals, you look at average revenue per operating bed, which is ideally you would want to have a business to charge higher for its product and service, because that gives it, that aspect gives it a competitive advantage. All right. Right. And the next one is product differentiation. Okay? If you are, let's say, if you have a product or service which is different from what the competition is offering, then also that product or service differentiation is a source of competitive advantage or moat in that business, for that business. All right. So when we analyze the ConCalls of Narayana, we'll try to understand, are they offering any product or service which perhaps the competition is not offering? All right. Are they trying to do something in this area? Are they trying to offer a different product or service? So we need to see that. And then there is something called network effects. Now, network effects, see, every source of mode may not be relevant for every business. Okay? First, understand what is networking effects. Network effect is when the value of your product or service, it increases when you have more people or more users using your product or service. That gives you a networking effect. Okay? For example, Facebook, LinkedIn. All right. These digital platforms have phenomenal networking effects, right? Okay. So because the value of LinkedIn increases because you have more users on LinkedIn, no? The value of Facebook increases because you have so many users on Facebook. So So that's why, so when you have so many users, let's say on Meta on Facebook, so now I, as a small time business owner, can advertise my product and or service on Facebook because I know so many people are there on Facebook. All right. Yeah. So I have that incentive to, I'll pay Facebook to and ask them to show my ads to those users. Okay. So the value of Meta increases because it has so many users on it. Okay. So in which ways we'll discuss if at all networking effects is something which is relevant for Narayana. All right. It may or may not be relevant. So we'll see. Then the next one is distribution. So distribution again is again every metric, every source of mode may not be relevant for every business. As I said, the risk of repeating myself. Distribution. You think of, let's say, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has phenomenal distribution. It's present in every nook and corner of the country. What country it is present in every nook and corner of the world. All right. Yeah. So let's say if you want a cola, yeah, you'll get Coca-Cola for sure, Coca-Cola or Pepsi, but you may not get any small other brand. That's the reach. That's the distribution that uh, Coca-Cola has. Okay. All right. So which gives them more. All right. So basically, Coca-Cola in this example has a distribution mode vis-a-vis any other, let's say, soft drink provider, any less known soft drink provider. Okay, right? The distribution in the context of Narayana or hospitals in general, okay, would mean as to what kind of reach does or pan-India presence, okay, does that hospital have. Okay, so let's say if you have Apollo has a pan-India presence, Apollo hospitals. Okay, so they have a larger distribution, a larger reach than some of the other regional hospitals, right? So let's say if you have a regional hospital, they do not, of course, have that kind of distribution. Okay, they may be doing well in that region, okay, but they lack the uh, uh, the additional revenue or the additional margins that you could get by being present in other regions of India. Okay? Because you can only grow so much if you're present in one region. So you have to expand to other areas to foster, to get more growth. Okay? So if you are present in so many different regions, you have a good distribution, good reach, then also, and you're doing well in those regions, then of course it's a source of moat for that business. Okay? All right. And what we do know is, and we looked at the investor presentation for Narayana, they have their flagship presences in uh, Bangalore and Kolkata. And of course, we also need to understand, we have to look at the ConCalls to understand whether they have plans to, let's say, increase their presence or foray into other areas of the country. And what is the management view about that? Because of course, we'll have to take a subjective judgment on what kind of distribution or what kind of reach, this will Narayana or Narayana can have in the future. Okay? See, everything about this, how you measure these sources of moat, every measure cannot be quantitative. There is a lot of qualitative judgment though that goes into deciding if a business has moat or not. Okay? Chalo, all right, let's move forward. Switching cost. The switching cost is the expense, a consumer has to bear when they, let's say, switch from one company to the other, right? So if I switch from, let's say, one company to the other and I bear significant cost, and switching cost uh, from the company that I switched over from, that business has very high switching cost, and then that business we'll call that business has a very high switching cost mode. Then a regulatory advantage, yeah, is again a source of mode. Let's say if you are in a business, yeah, in which you need to get a lot of regulatory approvals before you can, let's say, start a business or or regulatory approval. Yeah. So, and that regulatory approval takes a lot of time. Yeah. So it may become unattractive for other. It may become unattractive for other players to enter that particular industry or business. Okay. All right. So I think it's essentially ties to barriers to entry, which is my next point here in the source of mode. Yeah. So let's say if a business has very high capital intensity, okay, and there's high capex ramp up time, meaning, okay, that so business is a capital guzzler. This industry is a capital guzzler. It takes a lot of capital to set up the business, and even uh, it takes a lot of time to, let's say, construct a plant and get that plant fully operational, or construct a hospital and get that hospital fully operational. It takes a lot of time to bring customers in the or patients in the hospital, and for the hospital to break even. Okay, then of course that's a major deterrent for new entrants in that business. Okay, right, and of course if there is regulation in that industry, okay, then of course that's also a deterrent to for new players to enter that business. So there are barriers to entry in a business, then that's a significant source of moat. So the last is threat of substitution. Yeah, last source of moat. So let's say if your product or service could be, let's say, potentially replaced by another product or service, from another firm or another business, okay, then of course there is significant threat to your business. Yeah. In the case of hospitals, of course, the medical treatments cannot be substituted to you. If you need medical treatments, you have to go to a hospital. All right. So that's the case. Okay. So in this industry itself, there is very low threat of substitution, is what I would say, in the industry itself. Okay. All right. All right. So now let's go to the con calls and see if there is any commentary in those con calls about any of these points that I've listed here. Okay. And then through that commentary in the con calls, we'll try to form a judgment कि what kind of moat this company Narayana Hrudalaya has vis-a-vis other players in the industry. ठीक है, तो as an example, of course, हम सब कुछ नहीं cover कर सकते in this session, in this video. Okay, so I'll specifically take you through what they're saying about any cost. Okay, what they're saying about costs. Okay, I'll take you through what they're saying about how they price their product and services. ठीक है, all right. In fact, we know for the fact that they charge their medical treatments at a very low, at a very competitive price point. So we need to understand the reason behind that. So we'll look for management's commentary around this point. Okay? And of course, very important, okay, we'll try to assess, we'll try to understand what kind of products and services Narayana is offering, okay, which are different from its peers in the industry. Are they offering any new products? Okay, of course, if they're offering any new products, then of course that has a potential to differentiate Narayana from its competition. So हम ये भी देखेंगे. All right. Okay. And of course, we'll also we look at distribution, what kind of reach. In fact, to understand the reach of a company, investor presentation is a good source, but also we look at what kind of supplemental information regarding the reach of Narayana, regarding its presence across India, we can find in the earning call transcript, in the con calls. What are the plans in like to expand to other parts of the country. ठीक है, तो हम ये सब चीजें देखेंगे. All right. Okay. So let's so see, this is how you should think. Okay? You should, whenever you like pick up a con call, you should have some certain things documented that you need to look for. Okay? Otherwise, most of the time you do not really know what you're looking for. Okay? So of course, have a framework, have certain things written down that this is what you need to look for when you go through the con calls. So अभी हम mode assess करने वाले हैं using these points, and specifically you look for these points that I've highlighted in yellow. Okay, as an example. Okay, so let's start going to the con calls. Well, hope you're finding my content helpful. Please write to me if you have any questions. Also, write to me if you want to join my equity research and valuation cohort program. Because in this program, I have analyzed in detail, I've analyzed and valued 3 companies from different industries. Okay? So this is a practical and hands-on program. I've strived to keep theory to a bare minimum and covered concepts through live exercises. So if you're serious about learning equity research and valuation, then you would certainly find this program very helpful. All right. So please write to me. Thank you. All right. So I've pulled open the con call from FY23 Q4. Okay. All right. So यहाँ पे if I go down, okay. All right. See, in the prepared remarks, okay, initially they have prepared remarks before they open the floor to questions. Okay. What they're saying is, we are transforming a business to offer comprehensive healthcare services. Okay. All right. So, एक second. I think, yeah, sorry, it's here. It's here. Okay. So what they're saying is the IRDAI, the Insurance Regulatory Development Authority of India, has been encouraging new entrants to develop innovative models of health insurance, okay, that cover the missing middle, and Narayana Hrudalaya would like to play a role in this new landscape. तो इसका मतलब बोल रहे हैं कि they are coming up with a new they're coming up with a new product, which is health insurance. Okay, अभी when we were going through the Moat wala framework, we saw what I said is we will look for any commentary around products or services that differentiates Narayana from other players in the industry. तो और यहाँ पे ये पढ़ के हमें ये समझ में आ रहा है कि they are venturing into health insurance. Okay, all right, which I believe is something which is not offered by other hospitals right now. Okay, all right. Now, Apollo, I recall, had some health insurance through a tie-up, but if you see, no hospital in India offers health insurance. So this is how they're trying to differentiate themselves. तो आपको एक point मिल गया. Okay, all right, and then they talk about health insurance. They give some more detail here, which I'm not going to train you through right now, but अभी से ये पता लग गया they are venturing into health insurance, which is a point of differentiation if this plays out well. Okay. All right. So let's go further. थोड़ा नीचे जाते हैं. Okay. See, now this gentleman again opens the floor for questions. यहाँ पे. Okay. Now let's look through, because see, I've already like prepared notes ahead of time. Okay. तो यहाँ पे if you see, all right. So the analyst, this analyst Yash Tanna, this analyst is asking about a new subsidiary that they've opened recently. So Mr. Viren Shetty, who's a part of the management, who's the MD, he answers, see, we are opening new clinics. We are opening new clinics, jahan pe they'll offer primary healthcare services. Okay. Sardi, Khasi, Zukam, and all those primary healthcare services. We want to be closer to where the patients are, in the periphery of our hospitals and close to the apartment societies. So not only they'll have hospitals, but they are now opening clinics as well. Okay. All right. That's what they are saying. Okay. And then what they say is, eventually we'll combine the clinics with the health insurance product that they are venturing into. So using a combination of both health insurance and clinics, they'll be offering a comprehensive healthcare services. Okay. All right. So यहाँ पे लिखा है, eventually we'll combine the clinics with a comprehensive health insurance plan, which would be able to cover not just the hospitalization and narrow network of their own hospitals, but also the outpatient services within the clinic network that we have created. So ये insurance पे they are venturing into, they are opening their own clinics. Of course, they have their hospitals. So we get to see कि they have two new products, a clinics and a insurance. So that's how they plan to differentiate themselves in the future. And of course, it remains to be seen how these two products pan out in the future. Okay. So we get very two good points ki how they are planning to differentiate themselves. What are the drivers of moat? Let's go further and see what are they doing anything else to kind of differentiate themselves? Are they trying to offer any more new products, or are their existing services differentiated? So let's go further and try to form an opinion. Okay. I'm straight away jumping to the notes that I had captured ahead of time. Okay. All right. So if you read through this, so Dr. Anish Shetty, so this person, of course, he's also a part of this hospital business, and he leads the Cayman operations. Yeah. So right now, but he's answering not just for Cayman, he's answering for the entire hospital chain. So what he's saying is, we are most competitively priced in the marketplace because we want to have a mass appeal. Okay. So if you see, the price of their services is lower vis-a-vis if you compare it with Apollo, you compare it with Medanta. Okay. So the price at which they offer the service is lower. Are we just going to take their word for it? What can we do to find out if their services are indeed priced lower? Okay. So what you can do is, okay, you can look at this metric, which is average revenue per operating bed. If you look at the average revenue per operating bed, and this is a little dated. I pulled this from a quarter ago. So of course, numbers would have evolved by now. Okay. All right. So if you see, Narayana is closer to 30,000 rupees per operating bed per day. Okay. Kowai, which is a hospital in Coimbatore, which again is a hospital I valued earlier in the year. Any which ways, it offers the average revenue for Kowai is 18,000, so it's the lowest in this list. And then it is Narayana. If you see Max is 67,000 rupees per operating bed per day. Medanta is almost at the same level, 60,000 rupees per operating bed per day. Okay. So these guys, leaving Kowai has a very regional hospital. Okay. Of course, Kowai now is expanding into Chennai. Okay. But Kowai is a very regional hospital. All of the other hospitals, they have a pan-India presence more or less. So if we just talk about pan-India hospitals which are pan-India present, then Narayana is the most competitive hospital out there. And the reason why they have kept the prices low, because they want to have this mass appeal. Not that they cannot increase prices, of course they can, if they want to, but they want to have this mass appeal. That's what they tell the investing community. All right. Okay. So this, again, in my view, is one of the factors through which they're trying to differentiate themselves from all the other established chains out there. Okay. All right. Yeah. So anyway, this is an important point. Okay. Now, let me go back to the con call. Right. And by the way, the average revenue per operating bed for all these hospitals is available in their investor presentation. Okay. So of course, you'll have to do the hard work of going to everyone's investor presentation and pulling this information. So that hard work, of course, is required. Okay. All right. Any which ways. Now let's move forward. Okay. Now I want to talk about something which, in my view, again, is gives them some kind of moat. Okay. So let me go to a different earning call transcript. Okay. And I know I'm kind of jumping across different PDFs. Okay. But after this, I'm going to put a structure. Okay. I'm going to put a structure to all of this, which, sorry, Ravi, you.
No, I think you're fine. But what I'm learning from this is a single transcript call is not going to give you the full purview of what the moat is. You got to go back and forth between different things, and you have to, as an analyst, you have to put it together. Because they are not going to have it in one form. If it's as easy as that, people will, as Buffett says, you can actually come up with the score if you can do it very simply. You got to have to make some judgment. Yeah, so this is helpful.
All right, let's just summarize thoda sa before we go further. See, until now, what we saw is what are the differentiated products or services? So we saw they are venturing into health insurance. They are opening their own clinics, which again is something through which they are attempting to differentiate themselves. Third thing is that they also have international presence. That's what we saw. And I would say the fourth thing through which they're differentiating themselves, which would fall under this point, is they also are pricing their medical treatments at a lower price point vis-a-vis competition. Okay, so because they want to have a mass appeal. Okay, all right. So this is how they are trying to differentiate themselves. All right. Now let's go back to the con call. Okay, and let's try to dig through what is the commentary on some of the other points that I have listed here. Okay, all right. So let's do that. So I have the FY24 Q4 का con call open now. Okay, so if I go further, यहाँ पे I've already documented notes ahead of time. Okay, I'll just straight away jump to a point in which they talk about differentiation. So if you see, here the CEO is asked a question about how do you think you are being differentiated in the market. So the CEO talks about diverse presence. Okay, so he says, differentiated from the peers in terms of the geographies we serve. Okay, so he's talking about distribution. He's talking about reach, which is another point in our framework, in our mode of frameworks, which is another source of moat. Okay, lekin, of course, you don't have to take their word for it. Even Apollo is present pan-India. Max Hospital is present pan-India. These guys are also, they're not as diverse as some of the other, as Apollo or Max, but they still, to an extent, they have a diverse presence. They have a good presence in India. Okay, and of course, we would see later that they are also trying to get a good foothold in other parts of the country. Okay, so in a way, they have some kind of diverse presence. Okay, second point the CEO talks about is how they're differentiating themselves from competition is that they do a lot of robotic surgeries. So if you read through what I've highlighted here, they have 2 centers where they provide robotic knee replacement procedures. Okay, and they go on to say that we are one of the highest. We have the highest use of robotic work for non-cancer surgeries as well. The numbers that we have are pretty high. Okay, right. So that's what they go on to say. Okay. Third thing is, which we've already covered, is that they want to be value for money for patients. Okay, because they want to have a mass appeal, which is again another point that we have covered. Okay. तो अगर देखो जो product differentiation is covered, distribution is covered. In fact, उनका reach के बारे में आपको annual report और investor presentation से भी पता लग जाएगा. Okay? But of course, it's helpful to look at what commentary about any of this you can find in ConCalls. Okay? And we also found out we also read through how they're pricing their products and services. It's pretty low vis-a-vis competition. Okay? Now let's look through if they're saying anything about their cost, if they have cost advantage. Let's take through the ConCalls and see what is being said about cost or cost advantage if in case they have one. So I have to go through, my notes tell me that I have to go to FY24 Q3. In a spreadsheet, I've already documented where I need to go for each of those points. Okay, so FY24 Q3 में, okay, if I go down below, see, मेहनत का काम है ConCall पढ़ना, लेकिन मतलब of course you have to do that. It's a laborious process. All right. Yeah. So their CFO Sandhya J, she has some commentary on costs. Okay? So she says, in terms of comparing a procedure cost versus a peers, okay, if you look at our realization profile, it is relatively lower to many of the top 5 players. Realization meaning the revenue that they derive per patient, the average revenue per operating bed, the revenue that they derive per operating patient, that is lower vis-a-vis the top 5 players. Okay, despite deriving lower revenue. Okay, if you look at the cost profile, it is at par with the top players. So that's a reflection of the efficiency and scale which we play. And that's what she goes on to say. If you look at this highlighted point, so iska matlab, despite making lesser revenue, lower revenue vis-a-vis peers, they are able to contain their costs effectively, and their cost profile is at par with the top the top 5 players. Okay, all right. So now having looked through all of this, let's just summarize. Let's just move back to our Moat framework where we had all the sources of Moat listed. Let's just move to that framework and let's just summarize, okay, what we've looked so far. All right. So now let's just summarize what we've looked so far. Okay? So I would focus more on the ones which I have in yellow because these are the ones that I specifically dug out from the con calls. I'll also speak to some of the other ones which I've not highlighted as well. Okay, but first let me focus on the ones which are in yellow. So cost advantage, we just saw. You see, although they don't derive, they derive a lower revenue vis-a-vis other players in the industry, but despite that, उनके costs are at the same level as some of the other players. तो उससे होता क्या है? Okay, कि they have been able to derive a decent margin. So if you see the margin of 24% is only slightly lower than some of the other top players in the industry. Okay, all right. Uh, so it tells us two things. Okay? Not only they have done a good job at keeping costs under control in reaping efficiencies, in their operations, but also another reason why their margin is pretty decent despite charging a lower revenue is because they are present internationally. They have international operations which are hugely profitable. Okay, तो मैं ये बोलूंगा कि they may not have a very significant cost advantage vis-a-vis peers. Okay, all right, but still I would say because of their international presence and because of reaping efficiencies, I would say I would rate them medium in this aspect. This is totally subjective. ठीक है, दिस इज टोटली सब्जेक्टिव बिकॉज आपको दिख रहा है मार्जिन काफी अच्छे हैं इनके, ऑल्दो इनका रेवेन्यू जो पर पेशेंट है वो बहुत कम है, तब भी मार्जिन काफी अच्छे हैं. ऑलराइट, तो इस एस्पेक्ट में इनको मीडियम में रेट कर रहा हूँ. ऑलराइट, इफ आई मूव फॉरवर्ड, प्राइसिंग पावर अगेन इज द सेम थिंग. So although they have a lot of brand power, they have a lot of brand recognition in India, but still they decide not to charge higher for their services because they want to have this mass appeal. Okay, all right. So because they want to have this mass appeal, yeah, and they are of course are able to draw patients because of this mass appeal, I would rate them high in this aspect. Okay, all right. Now let's talk about product differentiation. See, they they have they just started their health insurance product. They are piloting with it. They started their own clinics. They have international presence. So all of these uh, points, in my view, it sets them apart from competition. In fact, other health insurance and clinics, if they play out well in the future, then it will provide them significant source of competitive advantage. Okay, so इनको अभी मैं in my view, so this could lead to high moats. Okay, all right. Now let's talk about distribution. Distribution meaning reach. Okay, see they have a good they have a good reach. I would say they have some kind of diverse presence, as we just saw. They are present in Bangalore and Kolkata, and we would see in the third video, okay, that they also I'll take you some other aspects of the con call where you would see that they are trying to establish a foothold in other parts of the country as well. Okay, right. So I would say they have in my view, they have a pretty decent reach in India. Yeah, of course, Apollo and Max hospitals, they have a far more reach, a more diverse presence than Narayana. Okay, all right. Okay, so this was my quick summary on the points relating to yellow. If I speak to some of the other points, okay, देखो, operating leverage. This is something. See, everything you cannot just judge from the con calls. Of course, you have to tie it with financial ratios analysis. All right, con calls, of course, they help you, but of course, you have to analyze and interpret their financial ratios as well. So operating leverage, in my view, okay, not spending a lot of time here, but operating leverage. See, not only these guys, every player in the industry has operating leverage. Okay, and here what we are talking about what sets Narayana apart from competition. Lekin operating leverage, in my view, is a industry feature. Everyone is getting benefited, not just these guys. Okay, all right. कैपिटल एफिशिएंसी की अगर हम बात करें तो अगेन तो उसके लिए आई वुड से सी आई जस्ट वेंट लाइक a couple of years back in time, and I pulled the con calls of the last 2 years. Yeah? But if you go back further in time, you would see historically, Narayana has done a good job at capital allocation. Okay, so when some of their hospitals in certain areas have not done well, they have not shied away from shutting them down. Okay, so in my view, that's a very judicious call. Instead of pumping money in operations in hospitals which are not giving you the desired profits, usko ban kar do, which is what they have done. So they have been very judicious in capital allocation, and then also whenever they don't have any capital expansion coming up, what they do is they pare down the debt. वो उधार लेके hospitals खोलते हैं, and when they know that they don't have any expansion coming up, they reduce the debt from their internal accruals. Okay, so I would say कि I would rate them pretty high in this aspect. Okay, all right. ब्रांड पावर तो हम डिस्कस कर ही चुके हैं. इफ आई मूव फॉरवर्ड, बैरियर्स टू एंट्री, अगेन बैरियर्स टू एंट्री, ऑफ कोर्स बैरियर्स टू एंट्री इज सिग्निफिकेंट इन दिस बिजनेस, इन हॉस्पिटल बिजनेस. Okay, right. But again, this is a feature which not only benefits Narayana, but it benefits all the participants in the industry. And at the risk of repeating myself, here we are discussing how Narayana sets itself apart from competition. Okay? So this discussion is more specific to Narayana, but this barriers to entry is applicable, as I said, to industry and not just Narayana. So it's benefiting every participant. Okay. Network effect की अगर हम बात करें, see network effect, in my view, this is something which not applicable to hospital business per se. Okay, all right. So, but this is certainly applicable to the health insurance business, in my view. All right. So let's just try to understand ki does the health insurance business that they have started, would this business have some networking benefits or not? Okay. तो मैं अपना interpretation देता हूँ यहाँ पे. Okay. See, this is how you have to, piece different things together. Okay. See, let's take the example of Star Health or ICICI Lombard or Care Health or Niva Bupa, all these health insurers. Okay. So many of these health insurers in India, they have tie-ups with 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 hospitals in India. So let's say if a new hospital comes up, okay, that hospital would want to partner, okay, with these insurance companies, okay, because they know that they would get access to so many patients, okay, who are enrolled in these health insurance policies which are offered by Star Health or ICICI Lombard or Care Health or whatever. Okay, so any new hospital knows कि अगर इनसे partner, if we partner with these health insurers, so we'll get access to so many patients. Okay, similarly, if any customer or any patient, okay, or any customer, they enroll themselves in a health insurance, let's say Star Health, ICICI, any health insurer in India. Okay, all right, they know that they get access in turn to those 10,000 hospitals to which the health insurer already has a tie-up with. So the patient knows that they get access to these so many hospitals in the country. Okay, so it works both ways. So this is a networking effect that happens. Okay, all right. So of course, health insurance businesses, they get advantage of this networking effects when they tie up with the more hospitals. So and they get more patients. All right, but the same networking effect benefit. I cannot say that that Narayana, the health insurance product, which is being started by Narayana, I cannot say that Narayana will get the same networking effects benefits to their health insurer. Okay, I cannot say that because see, Narayana is the only provider. Narayana would be the only hospital which would be providing that health insurance. In that health insurance, no other hospital for now would be enrolled. Okay, so if I join Narayana ka health insurance, if I enroll for Narayana ka health insurance, I get access to only Narayana ka coverage. I do not get coverage elsewhere. So there is no networking effect that will play out. Okay, I thought I'll just give my understanding. All right. So I would not say कि उनको कुछ यहाँ पे benefit मिलेगा networking effects का. Let's talk about switching cost. Switching cost again, in my view, switching cost again. This is something which, well, if you want to switch from one hospital, you can, right? So this is again not a feature specific, which I would say applicable to hospitals per se. Okay? But let's say if you are valuing, let's say, any enterprise software company, if you're valuing, let's say, Microsoft, okay, Microsoft की operating systems, Microsoft Office is present everywhere. Okay, so you cannot just switch from Microsoft to, let's say, another enterprise software platform overnight. There are significant switching costs that you'll have to bear. लेकिन ये कुछ industries के लिए applicable है switching cost. It may not be applicable for some other industries like hospitals. So let's just move on. Regulatory advantage again, it kind of ties in with barriers to entry. Right. So last but not least, threat of substitution. So in my view, this is applicable not only to Narayana, but again, the entire industry. I think in the industry itself, hospital industry, there is very low threat of substitution. If you need a medical treatment, you'll have to go to a hospital. Okay. So there is no substituting that. Okay. All right. There is no substituting that. All right. Okay. So now let's just see. So hope this was helpful. All right. So I know this is a very qualitative assessment. Okay. This is just my conclusion of my judgment, okay, for all of these points listed here. Okay, all right. But this would certainly help you, okay, when you, let's say, put forth your investment thesis, no, okay, then this analysis, okay, the judgments that you make in each of these points by going through ConCalls, and of course, not only ConCalls, through annual reports and through financial ratios, okay, the judgments that you form, okay, on each of these points will help you form your investment thesis. All right. Yeah, so this is a very essential step that you need to do, in my view. All right. All right. So just to conclude, so in this video, we understood what to look for in ConCalls, okay, what to look for in ConCalls or perhaps in any other documents, okay, what to look for in ConCalls to understand the industry and to assess moat in a business. That is what we understood, okay, in quite some detail. Okay. In the next video, okay, we'll understand what to look for in ConCalls to understand growth, okay, understand cost or margin, and understand working capital. Okay. So this is what we look in the next video. Right? Thank you. Well, hope you're finding my content helpful. Please write to me if you have any questions. Also, write to me if you want to join my equity research and valuation cohort program. Because in this program, I have analyzed in detail, I've analyzed and valued 3 companies from different industries. Okay. So this is a practical and hands-on program. I've strived to keep theory to a bare minimum and covered concepts through live exercises. So if you're serious about learning equity research and valuation, then you would certainly find this program very helpful. All right. So please write to me. Thank you.